Well, hello and welcome back to the latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, today I'm going to be talking to you about something that I find absolutely fascinating. I've been approached by a wonderful expert in America called St. Rappaport, and she is trained and she teaches people how to use your non-dominant hand when it comes to learning new things about your subconscious mind. And this really interested me because I thought, what better way to share something new with you than to get her on my podcast to teach you how you can do this yourself. So welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, James, for having me. I'm super excited to be here speaking with you.
I'm really pleased to have you here too, because what you are going to talk about is something quite unique, isn't it? Because people haven't usually heard of this. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce this, but you told me before off podcast that you call this the creative journalist. You tell me creative journaling.
Yeah, I didn't make it up. I had such a long name, so we'll just take it as it is. It's 4 words: creative,
yes,
journal, expressive, art. So it's 4 words that you know, but it's remembering the order, putting them all together that makes it really hard.
You get a prize if you reshuffle them into a sentence.
Legit, my family makes fun of me. So what do you do? CJEABBCD? Like there's like so many letters and they're just trying to remember what it is.
But so what is it? How does this help people?
Okay. So let's give some background first. Okay. We have in our brain, we have the limbic system. The limbic system is in charge of emotions. It is in charge of memories related to emotions. And it has a lot of the subconscious there in your limbic system. Now, your limbic system goes across both hemispheres. It's like in between both parts. And usually you access it by talking, by writing. You're thinking logically. You're writing with your regular hand. You're thinking about what you're going to say, what you're going to do. You're remembering the thing that happened. Should I make this decision? Is this the right guy? All those type of things. Now, what happens when you're using your regular hand that you use to write with? You have coming up in front of you all these walls, all these blockages from things that other people told you, you read, things on social media, all these things that are getting in your way of you actually being able to go and access that information that is inside the limbic system. Now, if you write with your non-dominant hand, it's like you're coming in from the back door. You're coming around, you're writing without thinking, and you're getting all the information that you need that's there already, because you really have all the answers inside you already. The question is how you're going to get them out.
That sounds absolutely fascinating. I'm sure this isn't what you do, but I've seen psychics do that on television. They have channeled and they've written down, and there's a lot of history of people writing down masterpieces and Shakespeare's undiscovered plays, haven't they, by doing the same thing. Is that sort of what you're talking about, or is that something different?
So there is a lot of like research of it going back all the way from Carl Jung. He was very into it. The collective unconscious, which we all have. And when you write with a non-dominant hand, then you could go and connect. It sounds like only like spooky woo type of things, but it's really not, of like understanding other people, like go getting into understanding other people's point of views, understanding what they're thinking, why they want that, things like that. Now we could use it to like really help improve our communication and know what other people are thinking, not in a weird way, but just like to get the general vibe of what they want. So it's similar in that way, that it's not like a brand new method that just came out like today, that we're just like, okay, it's based on research that was built upon things that like developed to where it is today.
Wow. So how did you get into this? I bet everyone asks you that question, don't they, on every podcast? But it's a standard question that I need to know the answer to. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't planning on going this into my whole life, you know. I am a relationship photographer. I take pictures of couples in their ultimate state of love, connection, and like what the emotions they really want to have in their marriage. Now, what we do is after the photo shoot, they choose their favorite pictures to hang up on their wall, like a vision board. So that way, even though if they get into a fight, they have that picture that reminds them of what they want. or even if they don't notice the picture, because, once a picture's on a wall for some time, like you forget about that it's there until someone comes into your house and says, hey, that's a pretty picture of you too. So, but that subconscious mind still sees it, and it still is like training your brain, training your body to try to go and help you get there. Now, I love vision boards. I think they're amazing, but when you have the challenge, when something's actually coming up, it's not going to go and solve your fight for you. It's not going to help you get through it. So I was like, okay, how else can I go and help the couples that I'm working with without going back to school? I was like just fed up and done with school. Actually studied in England for 2 years because I was so fed up of the American system and what was going on. Not that in England was much better, but I was 16, so I got to go to England like right when you finish high school.
Where did you come to? Which area?
I went to Manchester College.
I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? It was better than staying in high school in America. I got my diploma 2 years early while my rest of my class still sat there in school. I'm not complaining about it. But anyways, I was fed up with school and I wanted to find a way like to really go and help these couples. And I was like, just like looking different things, seeing different things, just being open. And someone came to my house. She needed a place to stay. And she came to my house and she was doing this thing, CJA coaching. And she's like telling me about it. You know, that like you write with your non-dominant hand and you get the answers that you want. And like all of a sudden you don't like, just like always figure it out. You're not confused anymore. You're always like, no. I'm like, hey, that sounds really, really cool. So I was like, I need to go and try this. Now, she lived 2 hours away, but I said, I am not doing this over Zoom. I am going to do this in person. And so I went 2 hours each direction for these sessions with her. And literally like from the first session, I sat there like crying because like you're going right into the emotions, like to the core right away. And I just loved it. What came out of it, the insights that I have, things that like just come up in your face. A lot of times they're like things that like, but you don't really know. And you know that, right? So all those type of things, like exactly how I should do, what else I should be doing. And I loved it. So then after I finished some sessions with her, I went to go and get trained in it.
And how long did that take?
Okay. So the way it works is you go for a week to California to get trained by the person who like put the whole method together, with Dr. Lucia Capacchione. And then you have a year, you do like case studying, workshops, you work on clients, like all those types of things. And then you go back for another week, to California, intense, like 10, 12-hour days, just like sitting there in the emotion of all the work. Now, I was meant to go back for my second week in October. Because of the wonderful pandemic, we couldn't go back to California. And so they extended it. Instead, like we had one class a week for the next 7 months. And I'm actually finishing in 2 weeks. So 7 months from October is in 2 weeks. And then I'm going to be officially certified. But as soon as you do the first week, you could start working with clients as long as they know that like you're not fully certified. So ever since then, I've been working with clients using this specific method.
Wow. Do you find you've been quite busy doing that?
Actually, yeah, really busy. It's a fascinating method people don't really know so much about, but everyone could do it on their own level, literally from 3-year-olds. As long as someone could like hold a crayon in their hand and just scribble to release emotion, they could go and do things, all the way to like people that are older, like Dr. Lucia Capacchione is like 80 something. They're like old, like everyone could do it. There's all different types of things. There's like, you could do it with art, you could do it with music, you could do it with dance, anything like that's getting you into your non-dominant side of your brain, of your body, then you could go and do it. So it's amazing.
It sounds amazing. Okay, so here's the big question. My podcast is about love and relationships. So how could somebody apply this to become better at having relationships and finding them in the first place?
Yeah, I was waiting for this. Like, this is like where the fun stuff comes in. Like, after you have like all that background information, like, okay, now tell me what to do. Okay. Yeah. So first, let's start with finding. Now, before you could go and find someone, you have to go and know what you want, right? You're not like just looking for anyone, because the clearer you get, the easier your brain is going to be able to go and do things and help you find it. So first thing, suggestion for people is to take out plain paper, take out markers, take out crayons, anything that could write, and just draw some sort of image. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It could literally be a stick figure of the person that you want that you want to, like, that you're looking for. What type of person? Obviously, you don't know exact features and things, but just draw a little, it could be a stick figure, a man, a lady, whatever, whoever you're looking for, just draw that down. Now, what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to have this person just go and talk to you. Now, you're not really having this person, you're having this picture go and talk to you. So with your non-dominant hand, without thinking, just have this picture describe to you. What does he look like? What does she do? What are all those things? And if you have any questions, what you could do is take another marker with your dominant hand, thinking logically. Remember, your questions are thinking logically. You are thinking about it. You ask the questions to the picture, which is really to the person, to help you figure out what you want about it. So what do you do? Or what type of things will help me go and find you? All those type of things. You could write the question with your dominant hand and answer with your non-dominant hand. Have the picture talk to you till you get a really clear picture of what you want. So once you know, like, you have a very clear picture in your brain, you know what type of person it is, what personality traits they have, what values they have, all those things. Nothing. That's first step. First of all, that is going to just, even if you do just that, it's going to make it really clear in your brain. And all of a sudden, when someone else comes up to you and they don't fit that category, you don't end up going down this road and go on a couple of dates for some time. And then you're like, hey, actually, this is not for me. And then afterwards, right away, your brain says no. And you could use the energy that you were before wasting on things that weren't getting you anywhere to really go and find the person you're looking for. That's first of all.
Can I ask one question there? You mentioned about initially drawing this person. I presume that's with a non-dominant hand to start with, isn't it?
Yeah.
You didn't say that, so I'm just making sure everyone understands.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The drawings of the non-dominant hand, anything that is like you're not thinking anything you don't really know about. So let's say, for example, the person you're looking for, all those type of things will be with your non-dominant hand. So in case I forget again, make sure to stop me, but just remember, thinking logically is with your dominant hand and not thinking is with your non-dominant hand. Now, another thing you could do that's amazing, that works really, really well for people, is it's hard, but because it's really hard to get magazines these days, which works much better than just finding pictures online. But you want to make a collage, you want to make a vision board of this person. It doesn't even have to be this person. It could be this lifestyle that you want to live together with this person. What emotions do you want to have? A bit like the photography that I do, but if you don't have that picture already, then you're going to go and find other pictures in magazines. If not, you can find them online. But the thing about magazines is that while you're just flipping the pages of the magazines, you might see like random pictures that just pull you and you're like, I'm not sure why I'm doing this, but yeah, pull it out, rip it out, put it on your vision board. And later on in the second step, you'll figure out why. When you're doing that online, you're like more like typing. So a guy that does this, and then like you're finding that specific picture, not as much of like that natural pull. But once you have your whole collage, now you want to know, like, how can I really go and find this? I have this picture really clear. Now, what is stopping me from going and getting this? How can I actually go and find the person that I'm looking for? Now, for that, we go back to our two markers and we have our conversation. Questions go with your dominant hand, answers with your non-dominant hand without thinking. Now, you're going to pick different pictures from your vision board. You might want to start with the ones that you have no clue why they're there, and you're going to ask them questions. I'll give you some questions to start off with, but you go and add your own questions to really go and figure out what is the thing that's stopping you from going and getting there. So you want to start like basic. Who are you? Talking to the picture. Who are you? I'm a guy who is racing down the highway, whatever, whoever it is, right? Who are you? Question number 2 is, how do you feel? Answer how you feel. Question number 3 is, why do you feel this way? I'm excited. I'm nervous. Why are you excited? What is stopping you? I'm frightened. Maybe you'll have a picture that tells you it's frightened. Why it's frightened? And maybe that's going to be the exact thing that's stopping you from finding the person that you're looking for. And then we move on to the next question, moving on to actually how we could go and do it, is how can I go and help you? What can I do to actually go and get out of the situation and go and get the thing that I'm looking for? Now, you'll probably have a lot more questions. Like I said, just continue the dialogue. See what happens, see what's coming, ask more questions on what's going on. Does that make sense?
It does. So is the key to this the fact that you know deep down the answers anyway, and your subconscious knows? So it's trusting your gut. Is that pretty much the basis of this?
that is why, like when you meet a stranger for a first time, you don't always tell them they're your like deepest, darkest secrets. You don't tell them, right? Like it takes time. You warm up until you get to it. So same with this method, you might feel like you're starting to do it and like you're not really getting anything. I would say try it again the next day, a few days later, like do it a few times, and over time you'll see that you're trusting more, and your subconscious trusts you more, and so it will give you the answers. So people who are more self-aware, who are more in tune with themselves, who already trust their gut from before, tend to have this happen much quicker. It happens within the first like 1 or 2 sessions of them happening, because it is that process.
So when you're teaching this, is it a one-off session? Do you guide them through the process like a meditation? Or do you work with them on a regular basis? How does it work with you?
Yeah, so most of the people that I work with, we do together with the photography. So we'll be like 2 or 3 sessions before the photo shoot, getting very clear on what they want in their relationship. Then we have that photo shoot, and then just like instead of making the collage, we use the pictures, and we have like another couple 3-4 sessions afterwards. So it's usually like a session, but you have these tools that you could afterwards go and use in all other areas of your life. Next time you have a challenge, you want to, not sure if you should move or not, you should get a new job, something small is happening, you don't know where you should go for Christmas, just draw a picture, just like we said, of that situation and ask a question. So once you have this mindset, you could really go and apply it in a lot of areas.
Did you mention journaling as in part of the name of this? So journaling is something I talk about a lot to my guests on the podcast, and even though I talk about it, I've still got my journal here. This is still empty. I haven't got around to filling this journal in. For anyone that's listening to this, months and months later, my journal is still, I'll show you my blank journal here. Maybe I'm going to start getting my non-dominant hand to write down things in my blank journal. There you go.
I have a question. Why have you not written anything down?
That is a very good question. Because I'm so busy and there's a lot of clutter, which shouldn't be here in my office. I'm working a lot of different projects at the moment. And I forget that it's there. It's covered up with something. It's covered up with a book I have to read, or it's got my social media calendar. And every night I go to bed and I think about what I need to do and how I need to write these things in here. So it's an important thing I want to do. I've got goals I want to work towards. But I just find, rather than journaling, what I like to do, I've got a tool on my computer. It's on my screensaver. And it gives me all the things I have to do for that day, my daily tasks. And it is a journal in some ways. It's a really useful tool that I use, and it helps me focus on my task for the day. Or I just write on a bit of paper, like you can see here, and I do it that way. So what advice would you give me then, and anyone listening, if they wanted to start journaling, just to get on with it?
Yeah. So it really depends why you're journaling. If you're journaling to like figure out what you should do that day or your plan, then you don't need a journal. You could use, like you said, that program or app or whatever it is on your computer to really go and tell you. It doesn't have to be written in a book, right? Or on a piece of paper. Like, actually, that's what I do. I write things down. I'm very like physical. So like computers, like I could do it on a computer, but like I'll need it right in front of me to actually make sure I'm doing it. So I have like my whole to-do list and my whole schedule. Everything is like written down on a piece of paper in front of me, but it's not my journal. It's going in the garbage afterwards. So why are you journaling? Now, for this, usually we're journaling to either express our emotions, which is a really good one. Like you had a tough day or this date just didn't go well and you just want to release it. So either for that or to go and figure out problems and overcome challenges. Now for that, I suggest you make a time specifically, say part of your morning routine or part of your night routine, or even like start with like once a week, every Saturday at 10 a.m., no matter what, this is what you're going to do. Once you start doing that and it becomes habit and you go and you do it more and more often. So I, for example, journal every morning for just a couple minutes, 10, 15 minutes, depends what's going on. Sometimes it's only 5. And I just like write down all my thoughts or my feelings, if there's anything I have to go and work through every day, just for a little bit. Then if there's something bigger that's happening, because it's already part of a habit, because it's already something that I do, I'm really used to it, then like automatically my brain thinks like, hey, what should I do in this situation? And I go and journal. Now I am going to say, I've heard so much about journaling before I got into this, and I never did it. I absolutely hated it. I was like, well, what's the point of it? I'm a really big thinker. I'll prefer to just think it in my brain, but it's really, really different once I started doing it. I'm doing it on paper, especially with your non-dominant hand, because that's like something after you do it for a while, you could do it in your brain without really writing it, but you really, really have to start by doing with your non-dominant hand, and you just get answers that you don't think of before. It's like a game. It's like, it's fun. So like, why not? That was my mindset that really helped me to go and do it.
Thank you. I'm going to try to do this. And I promised all my guests that I'm going to do this. And I will do it. I will start tomorrow morning, and I'll write that on my diary on my computer. I'm going to start journaling just to give it a go. That's the first thing. On my
I like that.
list,
You'll have to send me afterwards an email like, hey, Esty, I did that.
You're holding me accountable.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I'm going to have to do that, as well as fix my microphone. That's my first task. For those that can't hear, maybe the sound sounds different today. My microphone packed up about 5 minutes before this recording, but I thought I can't let you all down. I can't let my lovely guests down. So I'm doing this on my webcam microphone. So if the sound isn't this way it normally sounds, I do apologize for that. Hopefully you can't tell the difference and you haven't even noticed. So I've just brought your attention to that. Let's talk about something else to really distract them from that thing completely. Meditation. That's partly to do with this as well, I imagine, because is there a way of doing the non-dominant hand writing and meditating at the same time? So you almost, how do you do it? Is there a certain structure you have to do this to? Are you just switching your brain on, switching your brain off?
Yeah, so usually like when you're meditating, your eyes are closed, like you're in like a certain state, you're focusing on something else. So what I like to do, what I like to give my clients to do is first to meditate, and then right afterwards, like you don't even get up, you just write and you journal about what you meditated from. Because a lot of times you'll get ideas, you'll get answers while you're meditating, right? Or you're just like calming your brain down. And then when you write, you'll have like new things to really, really go. It's like a build-up. It just adds even more to it.
Great. I'm going to ask you a question now. And this is on topic, but slightly different to what we're talking about. And the reason I'm asking you this, I had a conversation with my brother about the same subject yesterday. So if this comes out and you think I'm completely nuts, I'm going to edit this out of the podcast. But if it's made it through, maybe you have an answer for me. I think you might be able to answer this for me. I used to have this thing where I can go to bed and I'd lie down. I didn't sleep very well. And I was able just to get myself in some sort of state or zone. It's not about being psychic. I'm sure it's not about that. But I was able to almost hear voices and hear people saying things in certain tunes and things like that. And I could do that. I'm sure it's to do with lucid dreaming and the way the brain prepares itself. And my brother told me that he could do the same thing. I hadn't realized I discussed that with him a while ago. Is that something that everyone can do? Can you do that? Or is that just schizophrenia?
No, is it something everyone could do? I don't know if like everyone's a bit of a broad term, but I do think a lot of people could do that, especially like going back to this, bringing it back to like relating it a little bit to what we're doing. Part of what we do is when we do this non-dominant hand situation is like we identify the parts of us, like we have that little child in us, the protective parent, the nurturing parent, and we always have like these voices, we always have these things in our brain that's going on and telling us what to do, giving us ideas, doing different things. And we all could go and get into that state and really go and think about these things that are happening. Now, most of us, we're running our day, we're too busy, we're scrolling through social media, those voices aren't heard. But when you're lying in bed and you can't fall asleep and you're in like that lower state, like getting towards sleep, it's very possible to go and hear it. It's not crazy. It's not a crazy thing at all.
If
anything, you could, I don't know exactly which sounds you're hearing, if it's just like, there's like different types that it could be, but you could, if they're ones that you feel that are coming more in from the inside, like more internal ones, you could even use them to your benefit and like have a conversation with different parts of you of like, okay, so what should I do? How should I do that? Things like that.
It's more like other people that aren't connected to me. This is a very weird thing to discuss on the podcast, but do you know what? It's my podcast. I will talk about what I want. So there we go. If I can get you to help me with this, wonderful. It's beneficial. But I'm just thinking, we wonder maybe what are these? It's more like people's voices and saying things. And you hear a word or a snippet of a conversation, but you can't really communicate with them. I'm sure it's just the mind just playing tricks and just remembering things and helping you.
Yeah.
But I'd love to be able to control that more and bring that out without having weird conversations with myself that are going to make me paranoid or schizophrenic.
So you want to have those conversations more, or you want to hear those voices more or less?
Well, I would like to find out what they're trying to tell me. Because I know it's just me. I know it's my own mind offering me guidance, offering me tips. I want to know what that can be and how to do that. Because I haven't done it for ages, for years. Well, I haven't been aware of this. But it happened to me about last week I did this. And I thought, hang on a minute, I used to be able to do this when I was younger. And then randomly, my brother mentioned it to me after years and years and years yesterday, which is why it was a strange coincidence. He said, yeah, we had this conversation years ago. We can both do this. But can most people do this? And you said, you answered very well. How do we know if people can do this? Because people don't really talk about it, do they?
No, I think if you do want to know where it's coming from, I'm going to tell you the answer I tell everyone. You're going to want to journal about it. Draw a picture of yourself at night in that state and start off by having that picture just talk to you with your non-dominant hand, right? And you're drawing the picture with your non-dominant hand. And then if you're still curious about what's happening, like, where's this coming from? What can I do about this? Can I stop it? Should I continue it? Ask questions. Write the question with your dominant hand, answer with your non-dominant. You might be really surprised. I'm going to warn you, but like if it's something like really big, like it's been sitting on your mind for years and like all of a sudden you randomly do it, especially that you don't journal, you might want to do it a few times. The first time I'll be like, hey, I don't know what's happening here. Try it again a week later, see what happens. And a week later and see what happens. And you, if you do it enough, if you believe that you'll get the answer, then you will. You'll really figure out where it's coming from, what's getting in your way. And how you could go and like either stop it or continue it, whatever you want to do.
It's not just one voice, it's various people and various noises and things like that. It's not just my voice, it's just a weird, yeah.
So you're not speaking to a specific person. You're trying to understand, what are these voices trying to tell me? Are these like things that I heard in the past? Are these things that are happening in the future? Are these like, why am I having these thoughts? What's my brain trying to tell me by doing it? You could go and try that.
Because my brother says that he's trying to do it to maybe talk to people who've passed on and using it for that. But I'm more hopeful I'm going to start working out the lottery numbers and they're going to come to me so I can just get something useful out of it. Or say, put a bet down on this horse, whatever it might be. I'd like to know that if my brain knows. Maybe someone's trying to tell me something. But I'm going to take your advice and I'm going to journal it and try and control it and see what happens. I'm not scared of it. It's not. I don't believe it's spirits coming through to me. I wouldn't be bringing it up on a podcast if I thought it was that. But I'm open-minded and I like to know because my brain doesn't switch off and it's a good thing to do. So let's go back to relationships again and using this. Well, first of all, I'd like to know, you mentioned using a crayon. Do certain things work better for this? Because imagine a crayon's quite smooth, but to pencils or pens, what sort of tools do you need to do this, to do it properly?
Okay. So with this, there are no rules. As long as you're using the right hand at the right time, there are no rules. It really, really depends what you're feeling at that moment. I like having tons of different supplies and having clients pick what they're feeling like. Let's say, for example, crayons. If someone's really angry, it's really good because you could press really hard versus a marker is just going to like smash down, or colored pencil is going to like break or something. So crayons, a lot of people like when they're really angry. Pencils, sometimes people like, they're more soft. They're more like side. Different people like different things. Some people just have preferences. I personally love markers and most of the time I use markers, but there's no rules. It's what you want, what you're in the mood of. There's also like no right and wrong for colors. Like, let's say, for example, a lot of people associate red with anger, my red background. Or love. But it doesn't mean that you might think that green is anger, even though green is meant to be a really calming color, meant to. So there are like real things that research, but for you yourself in this situation, it could be it's different, and that's totally fine.
Wow. This is not me asking a smart ass question. I'm just genuinely interested here. What if you're ambidextrous? How does it work then?
Yes. So most people still have a specific hands they write with, meaning even if they do things with both hands, like, I don't know numbers, but a very, very, very high percentage of them still have a specific hand they write with. And for this situation, we'll call that their dominant hand. They write with that hand, so then you use the other hand. If not, if you really most of the time, like only if you really, really most of the time write with both hands and it like absolutely makes no difference, then you'll want to use your left hand as your non-dominant hand for this. That's because the right side of your brain is in charge of the creative stuff and has more access to the emotion. So it just like, I don't want to say works better because every person's brain ends up being different based on how they use their things. But for people who use both hands for both things, their creative mind, their right thing is in their right side of their brain. And because each side of the brain is in charge of the opposite side of the body, then the left hand will be using the right mind.
Okay, great answer. And something else that occurred to me just now, what if someone's a very negative thinker, get lots of anxiety? People who come to me often have dating anxiety. They're very nervous about what they're going to do. They can't make the right decisions and they self-sabotage an awful lot. How do you stop your non-dominant hand giving you bad advice?
Okay. Now, your non-dominant hand is not going to give you bad advice. If it's giving you bad advice, that means you're thinking while you're writing with your non-dominant hand. Your non-dominant hand wants the best for you. It might not think you're ready for it now. It might not tell you can't do it now. But if you see bad things coming out, then there's something wrong going on there, and you're thinking before you're writing. So then they'll have to like work on first being ready. Like, do I really want to know the answer? Am I really ready to go and hear this? And then when they write with their non-dominant hand and they don't think, that's a really important part, they're not thinking, then they'll get the right answers that they're looking for.
So the brain just switches off and just does its own thing, and then the hand writes down the answers for them and then reads it back. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's like why when we write with our non-dominant hand, we don't care about grammar, we don't care about spelling. We're not trying to like do anything perfect. Nothing has to be right here. We just want to get the answer out.
Is it like when you're driving along and you suddenly realize you've been driving for miles and not really been aware of what's happened? It's almost like daydreaming. Is that what the process is?
Yeah, you go in a bit like if you do for a while, like not just 5 minutes, you might find yourself like in a bit of a state, like just like close to meditation, not really, but of just like writing, and you'll be like surprised what comes up on that paper because you didn't think about it, like what, where, how, and it's just there.
You talked to me about how you're a relationship photographer as well, which fascinates me in itself because I've been married for 10 years as of the end of this month, and we've got pictures up on the wall.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a good qualification as a dating coach to be married for 10 years. So I'm going to be using that one as much as I can, milking that one. So until she finds out and she tells me off for it. But we've got pictures up on our walls of a relatively new house we've got. And they are from maybe 10 years ago when we got together. We had a couple shoot together, which was amazing. So I can see how that's a really good thing. But you're right, this is positive reinforcement, isn't it? As we go about our daily lives, we're looking at these pictures and reminding us what we were 10 years ago and to keep us being that way and heading towards it. I'd never really thought of it before as a vision board. So I'd like to quickly go back to that. We're going to run out of time very shortly because this is a fascinating topic. But your vision board you mentioned about having the wonderful things you tear out of newspapers and magazines, which I recommend to all my clients anyway. When you're doing that, could you do that the same way? Could you just randomly let your non-dominant hand tear the pages out and see what it can tell you the same way? You
could try that. If you try also from like the app, if you're flipping through a magazine, you might find like certain, either your non-dominant hand, but more than your non-dominant hands, you might feel like you're seeing them, right? When you're writing, you're not really thinking so much. When you're flipping, you don't want to flip out every single one of them. You have to like think a little bit. So it's not really so much thinking. It's more getting into that intuition part of feeling like, hey, what's pictures pulling me? And even if a picture pulls me and I'm not sure why, pull it out anyways and then figure out why.
That's what I was thinking. I can see the benefits of that because it's telling you that have a look at this. You weren't really considering that before, particularly when it comes to choosing a partner. People don't always think outside the box too much, and like always advise them, don't have a type. Think about other things that you want, qualities, the values are more important to you than say looks. So doing that, it might really help you, might be beneficial. Just to finish off now, a couple more questions very quickly. Any other tips you can give my listeners when it comes to using these techniques, when it comes to maybe finding a new relationship, maybe online or from dating apps, anything we can connect to that?
Anything specific with finding something online versus?
Well, what I mean is, for example, there's a lot of dating apps and they're based on swiping, aren't they? Right. So if you use a non-dominant hand to swipe rather than a usual hand, is there a way you could do that and make better choices that way?
That's interesting. I never thought of it like that. It's possible. I would only do that, but once I'm already like in this a little bit and my body's already trusting, because like when it's still testing out, like you might not know what it gets, but try it. After doing some of these exercises, you feel like you're comfortable with your non-dominant hand, because in the beginning it feels really weird and like a little kid, but that's fine. Try swiping. That would be cool. See what happens if you're making a choice. You're making a choice like that. But more than that, I would say, let's say once you went on a specific one date with someone and you're like, not sure, should I continue? Should I not? Then go and journal about the situation and ask questions about if you should continue or not.
Fantastic. That is really, really good advice. And you answered my question well, but I just randomly threw at you there and you had a great answer. So thank you so much for joining me today. If somebody wants to find out more about you, and to hire you and to find out more about your coaching and learning this technique for themselves, how could they do that?
Yeah, you could go to lifepixrelationships.com.
How do you spell Pix? P-I-X or P-I-C-S?
Yep, P-I-X and relationships with an S.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I've really learned a lot here. And I will give this a go, and I'm going to give it a go on my journal as well. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. I know it's quite early for you now, isn't it?
Early. Yes, it's 12:42. Thank you so much for having me, James. This was so much fun, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen once you start journaling.
Thank you very much. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.